And taking just a few more breaths in your child's pose. Before gently bringing yourself from your tabletop directly into a downward dog. So ensuring that those palms are right underneath the shoulders, all 10 fingers are spread out nice and wide. Tucking your toes and then peeking the hips up toward the ceiling. Okay, just give yourself a moment here, settling in the posture by pushing the mat away from you, reaching the chest palate toward your thighs. Taking the eyes to look past the inner thighs, finding that lengthening sensation through the back of the hamstrings and the calves. And then slowly walking the big toes together to touch. Inhale the right leg up toward the ceiling, and then stepping that right foot forward between the palms. Warrior one stance, so your feet are about hips width. Left toes are slightly facing out on an angle. And as you root down to rise, slowly start to reach the arms up toward the ceiling. So the classic postures today are going to be held for about a minute to a minute and a half, so a little bit longer than usual. Kind of like a hatha-based flow. And you're really focusing on just allowing the body to settle into the posture. So whenever the mind does wander, just acknowledge it and slowly bring yourself back to the moment. And just paying attention to the subtleties of sensations in your body. Going a little bit deeper on the right knee lunge, you're just over halfway through. If you look down toward the right big toe, allow your knee to hide those three pinky toes, are they called? Toes. Go deeper into your set and then firmly root down from the outstep of your left foot. So you feel the natural arch on both right and left. And pay attention if you're gripping the toes to the mat. Try to soften those toes. Lengthening up through the chest, softening your shoulders. Try to straighten the arms. Taking about 2 more breaths. You're almost there. Taking the palms to the hips here. Straighten out the right leg. And then bend the knee and slightly step the left foot up by just literally a footstep. Your feet are in the same placement. Pull the right hip back a little bit so the hips are squared to the top of the mat. Inhale, lengthen through your spine and then hinging from the hips. Try to keep a flat spine as long as you can, and then slowly release the fingertips toward the ground. Straighten that right knee without hyperextending, and then pull the right hip back a little bit. Eyes toward the right ankle or the shin. And then just allow again the body to deepen into stance. We're probably not going to hold this one as long as we did for Warrior One, but we are going to give ourselves a little bit of time and patience. As your body softens into the posture deeper, you could slowly allow the upper body to meet the right leg. Perhaps you could even relax your head, so the crown of the head becomes parallel to your mat. Take about 3 more breaths here. Beautiful. Planting your palms down. 3-legged downward dog. So slight bend to the right knee. Take your time to reach that right leg back up to the ceiling, just like before you started. And then slowly release into a classic down dog. You could walk out your feet. You could take a slow sip of water, or come into a child's pose if your body needs it. For those at home that are feeling energetic, you're welcome to take a flush set, high plank to low. up dog into that down dog. You could do that 3 to 5 times, depending again on your energy levels. And we're going to be in that downward dog here for about 5 more breaths before we move on to the other side. Breathing in and out of the nose, maybe finding that ujjayi sound. Eyes are looking past your inner thighs. Walking those big toes together to touch. And then inhale that left leg up toward the ceiling. Preparing for that warrior one. So stepping that left foot forward. Root down onto the outsteps of your feet, softening your toes as they're there to simply balance you. And then bringing your body upright. Tucking your tailbone. Slightly squeezing in through that right glute, and then do your best to slightly take the left hip back as you go deeper into that left knee lunge. Again, you're just finding your posture, finding a focal point with the eyes, and then just allow yourself to settle. Breathing in and out of the nose. Once you found your stillness, try not to fidget the body too much. Any small adjustments, again, just getting the depth of the pose today. It's a great opportunity to check in with what's happening mentally, if the mind wanders. Lengthening through your spine. Okay, just here for a few more breaths. Beautiful work. Slowly taking the palms to the hips to start. Straighten out the left leg momentarily, just to bend that knee again. Shift the weight so you could step the back foot up by about a foot step. And then pull that left hip back a couple of times, squaring the hips to the top of the mat. Inhale, flat back. Hinge from the hips, coming into your forward fold. Getting right into the back IT band. Lengthening that heart palate forward. And we're here for half of the time, roughly. And just really give yourself permission to surrender into the moment of whatever it is that's going on for you today. Without adjusting anything or changing anything, just being mindful of it. If you did last time, relaxing the weight to the head so the crown of the head becomes parallel to the mat. Nice. Final 2 breaths here. Slight bend into your left knee, plant the palms. Coming back into that 3-legged downward dog. And then slowly releasing that left foot down. Either take your flushes, 3 to 5. Or if you need a little bit of a break, coming into that child's pose, grabbing a little bit of water. We've got just one more posture to go through. We're going to get into our warrior 2. So you're going to step the left foot forward and then drop the back right heel and then slowly walk the palms to the side of your mat. From here, bend the knees and then take the head to look up. Now, if you have any props, Perhaps grab your props so they're in reaching's distance. And we're going to come into a Trikonasana briefly after Warrior Two, okay? So root down into the heel, slowly, simply stand up. Okay, find your adjustments to make yourself comfortable, and then taking your right toes out, okay? Pointing them toward the back end of your mat. You have a back right heel to left arch alignment. Widen your stance enough so then you're comfortable in the pose. So remember, if that knee goes past the right big toe, you can widen your stance a little bit more. And what we're going to do is we're going to simply keep the arms exactly as they are. Forearms, palms facing down, palms are at shoulder height. Pay attention in your body if you notice that you're leaning the upper body forward, or you're leaning it too far back. Try to keep it directly on top of the hips. And then just find your focus line past the right middle finger. And finding your breath. Just as we did in our previous posture, weight is on the outsteps of your feet. Find a little bit more depth into the right knee, and then slight engagement in through Mula Bandha. So what that means is the pelvic floor and the anus pulls in and up. You'll feel a slight left glute engagement in particular in this pose, and then just hold that engagement point as you continue to breathe in the midline of your body. Okay, you're halfway through the hold. Keep the crown of the head lengthening up toward the ceiling. And good, final few breaths. Beautiful. Straighten out the right knee. Hinge the upper body to your right until you can't go any further. And then slowly lower down the right palm to a block. If it's there, you could lower it down to the floor. If it's too much, you could bring the palm on the right thigh and just hold it there. We want to try to keep your shoulders somewhat aligned to the hips so you're not losing shape and posture. And then reaching that left arm up. Now remember, the basis of yoga, it's not about the flexibility, it's not about how far you can go, it's what kind of work that you do while in these posture sets from a mental and emotional standpoint. Okay, you're here for just a few more breaths. We're not here for too much longer. If you're able, reach the left fingertips the same direction that the right toes are facing. Try to keep that left shoulder pulled back, and just imagine that if you were doing this against a wall, both hip bones touch and both shoulders touch. And then breathe right underneath that left armpit into the lung cavity. Left palm comes down to the hip. Bend the right knee, push yourself up, and then slowly release the pose. Taking the right toes to face forward, and then taking the left toes now to face the top of the mat. Left heel to back right arch alignment. Adjust yourself, bend the knee, and bring yourself back in toward a Warrior Two, just on the other side now. Slight engagement again through the right glute by engaging through the pelvic floor. Get that anal lock pulling in and up. That's going to protect your lumbar spine. Roll that right shoulder blade back, keeping your chest palate lifted, and then go deeper into your left knee lunge. Your eyes are focusing past the left middle finger, and you're just using the stillness and the hold to just keep your focus on the present moment. Especially when we come into these kind of posture holds where we're holding for a longer period of time, it's a really good way to check mentally where you're paying attention and strengthening your focal point. Go deeper into that left knee lunge. Weight stays on the outsteps of the feet. Make sure you're not gripping the toes or locking the jaw. And you're here for the final 3 to 5 slow yogi breaths. You're doing great. Hang in there. Hold the posture nice and still. It's kind of like the kids' game red light, green light, right? Okay, straighten out the left leg. Reach the left fingertips the same direction that left knee, toes are facing. Whether you're using a prop, like a block, it could be anything else at all, as long as it's not too soft. You want to make sure that you're still protecting through the joint of the wrist. Find that reflection pose. Roll that right shoulder blade back, roll the right hip back, and then lengthen in through your spinal cord. Wherever you set the eyes, just make sure that you're comfortable in through the remainder of the neck. Maybe even take the eyes to look past the right fingertips if it's there. Here for just a few more breaths. Good work. Slightly reach the right fingertips toward the same direction that the knee's facing. Just get that same release and stretch if you did it before. And then with the momentum of the right arm as it reaches down to the hip, slightly bend your left knee, bring yourself upright, and then face the toes toward the side wall. Okay? Toe heel your way to a stand. And we're going to come into a balanced pose. So just bounce out the knees a little bit. Palms to your lower back, eyes to the ceiling. Take a quick stretch. And then come back to come into tree pose. So keep all of the weight on your left. And then take the right foot on the calf. Try to bypass the knee. You don't want the foot on the joint. If your balance feels really off, you could always rest the toes on the mat. If you're feeling good on balance, try to bring that heel all the way up toward the inner thigh, and then taking the palms to prayer, or taking the arms up toward the ceiling. So whatever your expression, you could change it up every day. Find a focal point with the eyes. We're only doing one set, not too long, just to find balance in the system. Good, final 2 breaths. Really pushing that right foot against the inner thigh. The inner thigh is pressing back, rooting down in that left foot. With time, you'll find where you need to distribute the weight and be able to hold for longer periods. Palms to prayer in front of the heart. Slowly release the right leg down and then bounce out the knees. Good, switch sides immediately. All the weight is on the right foot. And then find that exact same posture here on the left. And the first thing we want to do is, once we find the posture, pay attention to our inner narrative of what kind of thoughts are cycling through. Continuing to breathe in and out of the nose. You got props, you've got the wall if you need it. If it's really not there, keep the toes on the mat. You're here for 5, 4, 3, palms to prayer. Beautiful. Slowly releasing your left leg down. Bounce out the knees a little bit. Shake out the blood circulation. Facing the top of the mat. Inhale, lengthen your spine. And then coming into a forward fold. Hanging out here for a few breaths. You're welcome to come into a flush out from downward dog, high planks to low. Or if you're about ready, you could bring yourself into a child's pose and get ready for your next add-on.